Mara's always been very good, but dominating? That's questionable. Alright, we're jumping into this best of 3. In the top left of Lightshade, sending out his SCV, it is HeRoMaRinE. And to the bottom right, as the red Protoss, he is Harstem. Gotta run your own tournaments. What do you do differently from today's popular tournaments? I don't really think about those things. I could, if you gave me time and a budget and an idea of what you wanted to work with, but I'm casting now, so I'm not gonna put much mental thought into it. So HeRoMaRinE is once again proxying. So he did this against Goblin, just literally last game we were casting. And now he's doing it against Harstem. So, as I was mentioning, he was actually even on a bit of like in a phase. It's like not a phase bomb, but it was. Where 3 weeks ago, just like right after DreamHack DreamHack Fall finished, he was doing a lot of factory expands and some proxies, and then he, like, last week I feel like it was like back to mostly normal. Tackling Goblin's carriers head-on macro-wise. Maybe then changing over into tank pushes, but still not, you know, one-base stuff. And now I guess he's back to experimenting with some one-base stuff. There are some scouts this, obviously, and we'll see if he actually bothers getting a Zealot. So far, no. So he's not gonna get a Zealot. And we'll see how many probes he loses. Yeah, Space Duck. It'd be a more interesting question when when I'm not doing anything, I guess. One probe goes down. He's gonna want to get 3. And then Harstem is going to want to keep it at 1. It'd be lovely if you keep it at 0, but it's not really possible. Two Reapers can be a little bit problematic if they really want to take on a single Stalker, and Harstem not having much knowledge of what's going on beyond this, since his probe did come back home. It did see the factory being produced, but doesn't know if it's going into a starport, I guess. Or if it's going to build a cyclone and immediately come across the map. I mean, the shield back to the natural is the safest thing to do, especially if the Sea Reapers are going to actually try and tackle his units. And with his follow-up unit being a sentry instead of a stalker to help out, tickle damage not, you know, being super helpful, man, the shield battery had to be placed down. Both Reapers survive, very low health, but HeRoMaRinE's got some good micro. Barracks has already flown back home, and HeRoMaRinE feeling very confident about his situation, seeing that Harstem was going for just a natural nexus and a basic defense. Plants on the low ground, no problem. Don't have to worry about a bunker. Blue Sand Phoenix from the Sentry. You'll be able to scout out the exact follow-up and see that it's already quite a few barracks. But no Cyclone, no SCV going to be pulled here. Harstem is going to get to his blink. Probably? Yeah. A Viking's on the way, but again, HeRoMaRinE's going to use that for harassment. Actually, HeRoMaRinE might... Yeah, I think I actually will pull SCVs. Yeah. Not producing this third barracks, a tech lab or a reactor is kind of... It's sus, okay? It's suspicious. Harstem's Blue Sand Phoenix would have seen the third barracks being pretty fast, and that can be alarming. The fact that a tech lab wasn't waiting for it might have actually indicated... Well... that there could be more aggressive maneuvers than just following up on his stim and combat shields. And right now, HeRoMaRinE isn't even starting either one, because all of his gas is going into a Viking and a tank. So it might seem kind of weird to be using Vikings to go for a forward push against a Protoss player who's not going for a Stargate, but because the landed Viking actually is quite helpful, it's really not. Harstem going for something I think is really smart. So he did start Blink, this was his plan, but I think actually based off of that Scout, you know, that Sentry was a little bit scary to have against those Reapers, but he really wanted to get that Scout and not have to wait for a Robo and an Observer. Like, might have told him that DTs would be a fantastic option, and DTs are a fantastic option against tank pushes, because you can send one DT out at a time, and eventually run out of scans. I'm not certain if Harstem has done this the optimal way yet. We're gonna wait and see. Robe is gonna try and crank out the Immortal to help against the tanks. Blink is done, so the Stalkers take care of this one Viking, but there's another one forward here. First DT has revealed itself, and a scan is going to be used there. The DTs that were in force actually just get right on in. This DT is going to wait for more reinforcements. Another DT is going to come now that the scan has worn off, and how many scans does HeRoMaRinE really have? Is the question. If he uses it here, he can't use it back here, and I think that's all of his scans. He's got one more. Literally right now, he has one more DT scan, yet he has two DTs in his main and natural. This was a very smart idea from Harstem. It's still kind of weird, though, because the defense on this side of the map isn't the cleanest. Lose a lot of units, gonna lose his Twilight Council. The missile turret's not gonna be built, however. So the DT will eventually clean this up. Yeah, I think Harstem did win this, based off that Scout. I mean, it feels, yep, GG. Well done. It feels really scary to do that, because what if you mistimed the push? What if, you know, you're forced to use your first DTs defensively, which, yeah, they wouldn't push you, but then they'd be defending back at home, and the game might just kind of continue on. What if you did only warp in the offensive DTs, and then let a missile turret finish, or something like those lines? Like, it's a scary choice because of how, you know, much of a difference one scan makes in dealing with DTs. It's not like you have DT Blink and 7 DTs. If one DT is scanned, it is dead. If 3 DT are scanned, it's probably dead. So a scan is a huge difference to make. But it is actually a fantastic option against a tank push, which he was able to scout thanks to that hallucinated Phoenix that he got with the Sentry. Doesn't usually play out that perfectly, but it did for Harstem. In the top right of Oxide, it is the blue Terran HeRoMaRinE. In the bottom left is the red Protoss. He is Harstem. And even before that Sentry idea, you know, the probes actually were well defended by Harstem. He only lost one probe, and while he did have to get a shield battery, which you would rather not, but the trade-off is actually keeping your units alive, it worked out favorably for Harstem. He got the exact appropriate number of things he needed. So in that case, one shield battery. And 2 units to barely cover the Reaper attack. And the Sentry doesn't take too long for it to gain energy for hallucination if you're not using it for other things. Scouts pretty early on the actual infrastructure of a Terran player. And then just, like, has enough time because of that very, very fast Scout. If the Observer comes after, you know, you build the Robo, the Twilight Council, then the Robo, then the Observer, Chroned or not Chroned, then it has to go across the map. By that time, if it scouts that it's happening, I don't think you have time to get a Dark Shrine. And that is a pretty big difference. That's why a Dark Shrine response isn't always... You can't always responds to with a Dark Shrine. Maybe if you're already going Dark Shrine, it's great for you. But usually the response can't necessarily happen, because the scout happens too late. But that worked out so well for Harstem. It should be the type of attack that only works out once, though, because HeRoMaRiNE's unlikely to do something that exact again. He's not going to do that exact push. And even if he did something similar to it, he would probably include a Raven. He'd do a slightly different push with a Raven. Harstem gets chased away. I think that is just the probes being chased away. And it's gonna stop, though. Okay, now he's gonna look. He's gonna look for proxies. Any SCV that's even waiting for a proxy, that makes sense. And we have ourselves a macro game, at least for now. HeRoMaRiNE kind of gets his hand smacked for reaching too soon for the delicious cookies. The proxy didn't really work out that much, and the follow-up didn't really work out at all. That was a very good strategic game. Strategic showing of Starcraft 2. Twilight Council into Robo, so similar opener to last game. I mean, Harstem did actually go into Blink. He just managed to also fit in a Dark Shrine. And HeRoMaRiNE's gonna have to be cautious about that. But as HeRoMaRiNE's not gonna be planning any push down the middle with SCVs pulled, even if he were to be surprised by DTs, and it is going to be DTs, I wouldn't say he's going to be that surprised, because when it is just a regular macro game, you're doing your thing, you're waiting for your stim and combat shields to finish with your medevacs, Terran players have gotten pretty damn good about holding on to a scan or two from 4:30 to 5 minutes. And the reason I emphasize that is not to sound smart, because if I really wanted to sound smart, I'd tell you, like, you know, what version of the DT build hits exactly what time. I'm not that smart. No, I'm telling you because if you are getting hit by DTs and you're like, these fucking units are so stupid, you can't scout it, this is bullshit, that's the best thing you can do. This is a PSA to Terran players out there who are getting bopped by Dark Shrines. It is the best thing you can do. So, there are differences. Is it a proxy gateway versus not? Is it a warp prism versus not? Is it actually DTs or is it not? But saving onto a scan, even at the cost of a later mule, is going to save your life occasionally. HeRoMaRiNE is actually holding on to a scan very early on, so he just knows it's a Dark Shrine. So he sees a Robo, he didn't see the Twilight Council timing, yeah, he's just... I don't think he actually knows, though. He's blowing Wheelsword as well. I don't know if he actually knows. Or if he's just like, you would, wouldn't you? Because he's getting everything he would get if you actually knew. Saved scans, Raven, and a missile turret. But I guess if you knew, wouldn't you get a missile turret in the main as well? I don't know. I'm gonna reevaluate. Now, the DTs were going to be countered so hard if they hit just a little bit later, but as it is, I mean, 13 SCVs go down. 7 probes also went down to the Reaper and the Hellion, so that got kind of awkward on the Protoss side of the map, but the Warp Prism lived, DT still alive. 13 SCVs is certainly not bad for how much HeRoMaRiNE looked like he was about to hard counter that. And I'm still kind of confused as to how he knew. Okay, well, now I can't tell. Well, never mind. I was gonna take another gander at what exactly he saw, but, well, his medevac just revealed that, so. Oh, medevac wants to live over keeping the Woodman alive. Yeah! Woo! Alright. He saw the Robo timing? I mean, honestly, seeing the Robo timing might have actually just been sus. It just might have been suspicious enough. I know if I don't see a Twilight Council first and foremost... Well, no, because, well, if it's not a Stargate, I don't know. Maybe you guys can tell me. He didn't see the gases at that time either. I'm gonna be thinking about this all day. Anyways, doesn't matter. More importantly, the damage actually was dealt, and here, god damn it, Harstem is even going into an Archon drop. The fact that both of these players start with H apparently really screws me up. which I've seen as a follow-up to DTs occasionally. And I think it's cool. I think it's really cool. It doesn't work as well as the ZVP PVZ Archon drop, but it's definitely better than trying to do DTs again. Thank you, Joe Pro 99 for the 12-month resub, a full year. You really are a pro. So Harstem, just going for the Twilight Council to get himself the Dark Shrine and charge, is going to be missing the anti-air as he goes into Colossus. Harstem, when he plays into a bit more of the mid-game, we don't have such a bopping of strategy like last game, his mid-game is a little bit more unique than most other Protosses. It's not like startling unique, like suddenly carriers arrive, or massive wood rays, or only charge, like something like that, you know, but it is a little bit off, a little bit more unique, a little bit riskier, I would say. And I see the times where it really pays off. I can see it happening. But against a guy like HeRoMaRinE, I feel like what we usually see is the times where it doesn't pay off, where it just looks weird, and like, why did you do that? We'll see which game this is, yeah? With the Raven being involved, the Colossus is looking really bad. It is going to get its first attack as... Okay, well, the game actually just ended. Alright, then. Yep. Alright. Okay. Attack in the main was not being handled very well. Did a lot of probe damage, and there wasn't even enough stalkers, I think, to actually kill it. And then the natural, or the third base, I should say. Third base, the Colossus was Interference Matrix. So its first shot was as it was completely alone. So that was a very quick double-pronged drop to win the game. I did not think it was going to end that quickly. Shit. I love how people, I mean, understandably assume that most people on the internet are like sub 30 probably. Maybe 35, but then you're really reaching. Where old Abysmilliard is like literally got old in his name. Alright, that game too ended pretty abruptly. Harstem's opening didn't exactly work out as he would have hoped, but I actually didn't think it was that bad. I think that would deserve another look as to what exactly went wrong in the stuff that happened after the Dark Shrine, actually. But we don't have time for that because we're already into Game 3 on Romanticide. In the top left, there's the Blue Terran. He is HeRoMaRinE. Once again, doing a proxy barracks. And in the bottom right, it is Harstem, who also has a point on the board. There we go. I didn't really get to get time to talk about how Harstem's a little bit different, but I guess I did say that sometimes it just looks like it's different for no reason and it just falls flat. And I was like, which game is that going to be? And literally 5 seconds later, we found out that it was a game that Harstem loses. So, we could talk about how his Dark Shrine didn't do as much as he wanted, but I still think that with 12, 13 SCVs going down and saving the Warp Prism is actually fair. I think that's alright. Although it sucked that he also lost some of his own probes during that whole experience, but still. But then afterwards, I was going to talk about how he's going into Charge and Colossus, which I'll talk about until we see the Reaper pop out. Yeah, Charge, Colossus, nothing stops drops. And that drop in the main was doing some heckin' big damage. There weren't enough Stalkers warped in, they did not have Blink, and, well, they didn't have any upgrades, right? So, there was a lot of things that was going to be troublesome, but if you did have good information or good predictions on what the Terran was going to do, you could be fine. You know, we see plenty of games where there is not a lot of anti-air, yet the Terran doesn't do any drops, kind of plays into the Protoss's hand, where they just kind of attack each other face value, face to face, and then it's like, well, it was supposed to be a big weakness, we swear, guys, but like nothing happens. Like, oh well. but that was not one of those games. This drop in the main was difficult to deal with. I don't know if it gets easier to deal with if Blink was done, because does Harstem have more Blink Stalkers in the main? I don't know about that, but... and then the third is just like, was an unfortunate split of units. This unit control so far is pretty damn good from Harstem, I gotta say, but unfortunately, you know, I feel like there's this time where you feel really baller as a micro, like not even the Protoss, right? Whatever's happening, you're like, oh my god, I'm saving my drones, I'm saving my probes, I'm saving my SCVs, I am so fucking cool. Like, oh my god, this is actually working out brilliantly. And then... Oh, Reaper actually died though, that's good. And then you're like, you have 4 probes that are really, really weak, and 1 stalker, and you're like, oh, well those probes still die. Which is what happened. Like, Harstem was actually controlling that so well. Pulling back the probe and then pulling 4 probes to stop the Reaper from engaging without fear of being surrounded. Like, that was so good, but it just took the Stalker forever to actually pop out. So the probes are still weak, the Reaper was still alive, 3 SCVs still went down, and I think actually like the SCV or something got the 4th kill, but... HeRoMaRinE got 4 probe kills for 1 Reaper, his other Reaper close to death, still not dead. I'd say that's nice for him. And he got the Scout as well? Oh, he didn't actually get the Scout. First Reaper died long before the Stargate went down, and the second Reaper never got close to it, so that could be a little bit tricky. HeRoMaRinE is going for a very fast 3rd CC build, though, so we're not going to worry about any of the mid-game tank pushes. Harstem is going to be able to scout this very quickly, which is something that's going to be a point in his favor for going for Stargate. And then we'll see if he's able to, I guess, utilize that scouting well enough. It's kind of like the opposite situation of the first game, where he utilized his quick scouting to defend something in the mid-game. Now he has to do it to play out the long game. As I assume that's what he's going to do, and not try and set up an all-in. Shield Battery is a very important tool against the Cyclone. Technically, a couple of probes pulled and just another unit would also be fine, but like, why play with fire there? High ground's gonna work in his advantage. He has still not revealed his Phoenix, but he will not do it now. I've thought about it. It's like, oh, get a Cyclone, it'd be great. But this means that so far, the Phoenixes have not been scouted, but it also means that the Phoenixes haven't scouted themselves. They're not across the map getting the scouting done. And the longer this goes on, the longer Harstem doesn't cut corners. HeRoMaRinE has cut some corners, get a fast 3rd CC. Harstem, if he is under the impression, the default guess that it's going to be more focused on 2 bases for a little bit, could still very well be afraid of a 2-base push. Tanks or Cyclones coming forward with SCVs. Finally, the Phoenix are scouted. Or he could just be concerned about, you know, the slightly faster Sim Combat Shield attack. And get off 2 bases. Phoenix is revealed, finally going to go across the map. They're going to get maybe a couple of SCVs if HeRoMaRinE misplaces his anti-air units, but this is only the first time Harstem's going to be able to see the 3rd CC build. And I feel like he would have done something differently if he had known. A faster 3rd Nexus is the thing I'm thinking of. You know, instead of necessarily that 4th gas, I think you maybe go Nexus, then gas. Maybe you slap down... Maybe you just don't even get the Colossus this fast. You know, you can wait a little while to get it. I'm not actually sure what exactly Harstem would do. But it sucks not to have the full information, no matter how you spin it. No matter what guesswork we can do, he would have done something differently. Thank you, Mr. My Sweet Baxter, for the 4-month resub. Thanks, Mister. Couple SCVs do go down. That's nice. That's nice. HeRoMaRinE can assume that it is Phoenix into Colossus. Question mark on if Harstem goes for charge first or actually goes into the more expected blink. Without a Twilight Council, we cannot say. We're going to be waiting quite a while to see which option it is. Oh, he does have a Twilight Council. He doesn't research from it. There it is. There he starts. Charge it is. So again, one of the weaknesses of doing this without a Stargate opener, without blink, no anti-air. This time with Phoenix, it's a lot more understandable. You don't need Blink Stalkers to cover your... What? You cover your defenses against drops, to tackle the medevacs on retreat, to help against the Vikings, or to get that map vision and map presence. Those are things that the Phoenix do.
Prime
So you can push up the lane.
Thank you for appeasing.
So this is actually a totally normal game from Harstem. And from HeRoMaRinE, really. HeRoMaRinE went for 3rd CC, also went for double engineering bay, so he's going to have better upgrades than Harstem. Again, that's maybe where Harstem, had he known this far in advance, would have tried planning around more maybe a double forge. I'm not sure that you do, just because it is so gas intensive to do with what he's doing, but faster 3rd Nexus perhaps. Yeah. I'm going to be sticking with that, that's my guess. That's my final answer. Thank you, Xerxes 300 BC for the 513 subs. EG's most awesomeness caster, IMHO. That's true. On my good days, I'm definitely the most awesomeness caster. On my bad days, I'm okay. So 3 Colossus. That's actually kind of intimidating. You don't just shake a stick at that. You don't just tell it to go away. And, ooh, I'm not sure about this fight from HeRoMaRinE, honestly. Ooh, it seems a little bit tricky. He has to go through a very tight choke with his Marines face first against 3 Colossus that were yet not interference matrix. Seems questionable. I think the actual, distance of the interference matrix hitting and the Colossus attacking was maybe greater than what HeRoMaRinE is anticipating. It's kind of funny. So HeRoMaRinE gets kind of bopped. I mean, Harstem didn't have the most amazing scouting for a lot of this game, but just stayed the course. And then did his job as a Colossus user to try and nip that in the bud, which he absolutely did. Again, if you're having trouble playing Protoss with this style, you're constantly surprised by tank pushes, and you're just like, what do I do once I'm contained? Well, your problem is not going out in the map to actually meet them. That actually is pretty much a requirement against some well-timed pushes. By going out to meet him, he burns off a handful of Marines and forces HeRoMaRinE to run back. Now, HeRoMaRinE wisely pulls back and doesn't overstay his welcome, thinking, no, I'm supposed to. Don't do that. Pulls back, gets a 4th CC, 2-2 starts up, and that's still 2 upgrades versus just a single forge of Harstem. And then works on everything. Because he's had a very quick 3rd CC saturation and going on to a 4th, you can definitely afford to go for double starboard production as well as ghosts. Which I was going to say, where's the Ghost Academy? There it is. Warp Prism drops off a couple of Zealots, which is nice to see, but since nothing much else is happening, it is not going to do a whole lot. And the Vikings are available to try and chase that down. He got Warp Prism speed? How the fuck did I miss that? He got Warp Prism speed. Well, Warp Prism skedaddles. I love Warp Prism speed because I think that, anything that highlights micro is always fun to watch, but it is one of those things where... Is it... You know what? I haven't actually thought about this in a while. Oops, sorry. Is it 150, 150? Is it 100, 100? I actually don't know. Never in my life have I clicked on those 2 extra upgrades. The Observer speed and the Warp Prism speed, and gone, well, thank God I had just enough. Huh. Whatever. It does usually take away from something else, though, right? Like, whatever it costs, it means that you're not getting Blink as fast, +2 as fast, whatever. But it's cool to see, and we are getting into a game that's clearly going to go into a later stage. So, Warp Prism speed is going to be gotten either now or later. He just gets it now. Not going to do a whole lot. That's Hallucination waiting in the main. He's going to try and skid around the missile turret. Warp Prism's weak, but I think it'll survive. Doesn't even get hit, so that's it for sure. And, well, this was hurt in the main. They're all lined, so... It'll help a little bit, I suppose, but that's going to be a distraction for HeRoMaRinE if he lets it be. Anti-armor missile and then runs away from the disruptors. Now, that is all the disruptor shots? Maybe there's one more in there, but HeRoMaRinE could have tried continuing engaging. He did have to pull back, at least his attention had to pull back to clear up the Warp Prism, which was done very quickly. I thought that was going to be a little bit more complicated, but everything popped out at the right time. Good control on the Vikings to clear out the Warp Prism that was already weak, and he is back to focusing entirely on the front lines. However, his Raven did die. It was his last wish to get an anti-armor missile, and it did, but it didn't help. Nothing came from it. Harstem is going to be battling this maxed out bio army down an upgrade. Pretty tricky. Disruptor from the backside could have been a really cool idea, but instead just gets bopped by a Cyclone. Harstem's got this nice little concave here against, 5 disruptors now? Stalkers blink forward, take out a couple of the Vikings. Good control so far from Harstem, but HeRoMaRinE is looking for that concave. He sees he's got it, and he's going to push for it. He is going to push into this. Now it gets increasingly more difficult as he pushes into this choke, and Static Defense is finishing up, but everything is a little bit topsy-turvy for Harstem. The Archon's not going to try and take out the Vikings. The Colossus just shoots its shot and then dies. Disruptors might save the day at the end, but HeRoMaRinE has taken a damn good fight. A winning the game type of fight. And Harstem, it doesn't have any options. Even sees the DT blur and scans them out of this game. Harstem does not want to give up yet because it all happened in such a flash, but unfortunately it didn't happen. I think there's even a little bit of some harassment attempts on this third. I saw on the mini-map, but this really beautiful setup here meant that it didn't do anything. And HeRoMaRinE, he saw an opportunity and he took it. Harstem having to disengage like he did back into the choke could have, you know, been what was... could have been a fine fight, I suppose. But I think a couple of things went wrong. You see the last battle, Humongous Concave again, making it easier to dodge these disruptors. Yeah, a couple things went wrong in that last fight. You know, one of them was being down an upgrade. That certainly sucked. And then we're actually going to rewind and check out what else went wrong. Because HeRoMaRinE coming out of that ahead was like, okay, that makes sense. But he came out of it as in a game-winning move, which I did not think was going to happen. He's still not going to give up, but there are scans aplenty. The dodges are still happening. The focus fire on top of the disruptor is still happening. EMP is still happening. HeRoMaRinE is not taking this not seriously. He was like, I'm going to kill you and do it right. GG. And now we can take a look at why that fight went the way it did. So Harstem starts this fight off at a sub 20 supply, but 14 men in the army. He's got 5 disruptors, which aren't really getting their shots, so I guess you could say that's not really useful supply. And then he goes into a choke, which makes his Colossus, you know, better, theoretically. But it's still a good enough concave. The Vikings aren't being targeted because the Stalkers are running away, and the Colossus aren't actually doing damage. Just one guy got like 1 shot, and then they all had to run away. So 3 Colossus weren't really doing very much. You can see now they're only hitting a handful of units, so the choke didn't really end up going in his favor. And during the entire time the Colossus weren't doing anything, they also weren't being protected. So even if they eventually could have done something, as HeRoMaRinE continues to push into the choke, they were dead by then. And these disruptors really, all types of kerfuffled there. I think he actually had some shots, but he was busy microing so many different things. Anyways. HeRoMaRinE is a very strong